what we're trying to do is make a difference in the community for Christ. And we've, I think, Bruce, you kind of coined a little phrase that stuck in our meeting earlier this week. And that was kind of becoming a little bit of a mission statement, maybe. We're going to explore that a little more. But that is building the body of Christ through our young people. It's kind of concise, it's short, it's simple, but that's where we want to focus our energy. We need input from you, though. I've set up an email address that I would like you guys to write down, and if you have input that you can share with us about organizations that you know are already trying to impact this area of young people for the body of Christ in our community that we can get behind initially. We also have ideas on a long term how this group, as it grows and becomes more financially stable, or as there are more resources available, that we'll be able to involve ourselves either through the school systems or whatever else and have an impact. But the email address I'd like to give you now so that you can share with us is tucsonyouth@gmail.com. Again, tucsonyouth@gmail.com.
I know about Chris. Chris has been a resident of Tucson for a long time. Moved here in 1976. Chris has been in the real estate business. He's worked together with the Estes Company, developing Botanic Canyon, many projects throughout Tucson. Chris has been a contributor to our city. He's been a contributor to our community. He has built our community. He's been committed, and more importantly, he's been completely committed in his life to Christ. That's what we're here about today. We're not here about promoting the projects that Chris has developed. We're not here to promote the businesses that we have. We're here to come together as a group to be kingdom-minded. We're not here to be talking about ourselves as I. We're talking about ourselves as he, as we. So, no further ado, I'd like to introduce Chris Smith. Chris Sheafe.
Because I don't do this very often, I thought it'd be a good idea to have some notes. Let me just share perspective, and I'm going to kind of begin with the end, because what this whole presentation was about when Rick and Doug told me was how do we maintain as Christians our Christian values while we conduct business in a secular world with so many practical influences and diversions that happen to us virtually hour by hour. And, you know, we continually talk about this, at least we do in a Bible study that I hold in our office. There are several members from our Bible study here, and David Willard's here, who's working us through his book, which we really appreciate. And the whole purpose of that Bible study was to try and bring our Christian life into our business life and have it actually work, and try and figure out how we could practically do that instead of having sort of a religious life over here and a business life over here. And you do that in the vein of realizing that most of the people that you're dealing with don't necessarily share those same values. I'm going to have to move this one a little bit because and what I can tell you is this, that I think in spending quite a bit of time thinking through this whole process, there's a couple things that I would conclude with, but I'm going to start with so that I can put everything into perspective about that. And that is that if you get in the habit of bringing a prayer into the process of each element of your business decision making, which is to ask for Christ's involvement in that decision, that process, that negotiation, to use that process and your role in it to glorify Him, that you at least now reset the perspective of how you are approaching each little minute decision that you make in the business process. And I will tell you that it's my own personal opinion, but in reading about this and trying to understand how our minds work, that won't work for you at all if you have sort of a dual life going. if you're living a life where you're covering up or secretly dealing with issues that you don't want other people to know about, then you will not receive any particular direction out of that prayer. There's another thing that you have to, that will block you, and that is that if you think of yourself as a victim, if you look at life from the standpoint of poor me, you will also be blocked. And that's tough, because if a person comes out of an environment where they've been encouraged to think that way, and many people have, it's very difficult to shift away from that victim thinking, particularly when problems are hitting you. And I can tell you that there's only one way that I know of to deal with it, because, and I'm trying to get away from the theory and deal with the real hard evidence. How do you actually deal with this stuff? And the answer is that you have to get in the habit of not looking at the problems, but counting your blessings. So if you find yourself thinking as a victim, you know, oh, this will never work out. The odds are stacked together. There's no way I'm going to get through this financing. People will never go for this. That darn banker's lying to me. Well, this lawyer over here is going to sue me, whatever. If you focus on just those things without counting your blessings, they'll overwhelm you. And that's where I would conclude that you need to begin to ask God on a minute-by-minute basis to be involved in what you're doing in your business life, and keep that in front of you. And then do it from a positive standpoint, because everything that we have in our Christian walk, interestingly enough, is positive. The only negative is that our Christian walk might take us to a place that we weren't anticipating. You know, a lot of us are thinking, well, I want this to come out for good. Well, our definition, as Don and I were talking about earlier, our definition of good sometimes is a little different than the Lord's. And we're a little nervous about where that might take us. But the reality is that it's all positive. That if you go forward some number of years and you really are walking in step with God's plan for your life, you will look back and say, I am absolutely happy that I did what I did. David Willard, use him as an example, because he walked away from a very successful career to come out and turn his life over to the Lord and spend all of his time. And I know he had to have moments where he went, what in the world am I doing? And his wife, you know, because I mean, they put a lot at risk, you know, from the standpoint of personal comfort and personal security of worldly results. And yet, David, I'm guessing that it'd be hard to get you to complain now about that decision, and I know this just from having listened to